Our three-part series on the Microdose Pro founders would not be complete without a conversation with Kai Bennink. This conversation is fun, eye-opening, and irreverent. We learn even more about how the company came to be, a little bit of an insight into what the future might hold. He gives us the scoop on the newly released app, and you get to join us for a bit of a decompression session from our first team building event at Boom in Portugal this past July. We had so much fun recording it, and I hope that you'll have just as much fun watching it. Pour yourself a cuppa. We'll see you on the flip side. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you, Kai, one of our fellow co-founders for Microdose Pro and Human Pro. Thank you so much for taking the time and to let us see into the life and mind of one of the legendary founders. So I'm just going to start where...
Why are you laughing when you say that?
Because people worldwide knows that you guys are legendary. We have the social media comments to prove it.
Okay.
So just to start at the beginning, tell us a little bit about how you were exposed to psychedelics. What was your first moment?
My first experience with psychedelics was with truffles, actually, in a high dose. I think we took 15 grams. And it was actually with my other co-founder, Niels, as well.
Okay.
We were still studying in Groningen, in the north of Holland. And I think we were living together, actually, in the same house. We lived in a really big old house in the center of Groningen. And at some point, a friend of ours who was already quite experienced with psychedelics, he said, guys, you really have to try this. It's an amazing experience. I cannot explain, but trust me, we will do this together and I will guide you through this experience. And so we bought a insane amount of truffles, I think more than 100 grams, and we divided it among a group of friends, including Niels. And that first experience was just mind-blowing. And I can remember that one of the questions that I asked myself while I was in the peak of the experience, it was like, wow, like, and you can actually buy this here in the Netherlands in a shop. It's insane. I was looking at my hands like, wow, that you can feel like this from something that you simply buy in a store here in the Netherlands. It's insane. So it was a very, very, very good experience, very warm experience. And one of the kind of insights that it gave me was that I should put more emphasis and more focus on experiences and also relationships with people instead of focusing or chasing things and materialistic things and superficial success. So that, I think, was a mind-changing moment for me. And I also can recall from that first experience is that I think that was more subconsciously than consciously, but that I hoped to be able to do something with with psychedelics in the future, also from a professional perspective. But I've never thought of Microdose Pro or microdosing or what we've actually done in the past few years. But there was like a subconscious feeling of like, wow, that would be so cool and so insane if we could actually do something with this in the future. But at the same time, I was also thinking, okay, this is illegal almost everywhere, so will probably not work. But yet here we are.
So you got the call. You were the chosen one. Psilocybin said you are the one.
I don't want to go in that direction of like feeling the chosen one, being Neo, being the.
No, but there is.
No, I don't think. Sorry.
There is a call when it comes to psilocybin. And the
Hmm.
reason I say that is because of what brings us to it. Sometimes it's a nagging feeling of like, I don't know why I'm looking for mushrooms. I don't know anyone that has psilocybin or mushrooms or truffles, but I know I need to. Sometimes in your case, it's like a curiosity. But
Hmm.
when you get that call and you go to it and you have that experience, you do get these downloads of like, okay, maybe what's next? I don't know how, I don't know when. It makes no sense right now, you know? But
Hmm.
there's something, and it's gonna nag me until I actually execute. It will just be at my feet, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So in that sense, yeah, maybe it was a call, but it was not a very specific or concrete call. And I also I dismissed it, I think, in the beginning a lot because um, I'm an entrepreneur and I love to create things from nothing. I also love the grind and just putting a lot of hard work and effort into building something that you've, I don't know, thought of yourself, created yourself. I love that. And when you think of, I always think of new ideas. There's like a constant flow of ideas when I walk through the city or when I walk through anywhere in life. Basically, I constantly have that like entrepreneurial mindset where I think, oh, if this entrepreneur, this owner would do this and this and this, I think he would be able to, I don't know, make more money or more revenues. Or so I got that like subconscious call of like, wow, it would be insane if I could actually do something with this in the future. But at the same time, I think after the trip that I dismissed it already quite early because I rationalized that this would not never be able, I would never be able to do something with this because on the one hand it's like so powerful and sacred that I thought, okay, that's who am I to do something with this? And on the other hand, also from a just pure like legal perspective, um, I thought, okay, this is probably never going to be allowed anywhere in the world except for the Netherlands. Then, so I see no practical future for it. But that is changing very rapidly now. So
This is when
yeah, the timing is
psilocybin
here, I
said,
think.
"Hold my drink."
Yeah, basically, exactly. Yeah,
As we should.
hold my beer.
And it's you are very curious, but the reason I bring this up is because despite the fact that you're a very curious and engaged person, um, there is information that comes with exposing ourselves to psilocybin. And sometimes that information is, I want to take a dose, and sometimes that information is I need to integrate the dose. And I like to highlight these nuances. They're so based in intuition because it's so counterintuitive to conventional medicine. So this is just one of those little crumbs that I want to leave to newbies and maybe even intermediate microdosers that they might not, that they probably would discredit their intuition and how they should proceed. And this is a clue that like every exposure to psilocybin is a download of a kind, and it's very, very valid. So,
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's also that it requires some guts to follow your instinct and to also trust your feelings. I think when you're young, I was 21 when I did that first psilocybin experience, and I don't think if you're young, you trust your feelings because you didn't develop yourself properly. I think at that age, especially not me, because I was very very young still in terms of mindset. I always wanted to be old and wise when I was younger, but I was actually completely opposite. I think when I look back now in hindsight, uh, but yeah, I think it takes quite some guts to really trust your instinct and your feelings and base your guidance for life on that. Because I think we're so trained, especially when you go to high school and university. I once went to university. You're so trained to follow the scientific method of the things that you can measure and the things that you can touch and see and feel. And therefore, feelings and intuition and these concepts are not taught at all.
And it's one of my concerns, actually. Slight sidebar. One of the articles that I want to write soon is about the pros and cons of health trackers. And although they're really great and fascinating and very useful information, it creates yet another layer of disconnect between what I feel and what the app is telling me. So I'm deferring authority again. I'm not deferring authority to a doctor, but I'm deferring authority to this metric on this device.
Okay, but do you use, so you use health trackers, right?
I don't know, not yet.
Oh, you don't? Okay, okay. Well, I don't use many, but I have, for example, a sleep tracker
Okay.
that I've been using for a couple of years now, and it's quite good actually. So it's I'm not sure if there is a very strong placebo effect that when I see that I have a good
Right?
sleep score, that I actually like, oh yeah, I actually slept really well. But actually, for me personally, at least, there's not a lot of discrepancy between what is being measured by the thing and by how I actually feel or experience it myself.
It's a very thin veil, though. It's a very thin veil.
Why?
Well, because like when so for sleep specifically, like, you wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, cool, I feel all right. And then you check your tracker and like,
Hmm.
someone that we know that will remain unnamed panics when his score is like below 84.
Ah, you talk about Niels, of course.
Right? So it's like,
Yeah,
if you feel okay and then you see that your score is below whatever your sweet spot number is, then does that kind
yeah.
of, make your day a little bit less,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly. And that's why you're not using it, because you're afraid that it will negatively influence your
Uh,
state of mind.
I haven't used it yet because I haven't decided between the Whoop and the Ring. So that's probably why.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're still in that process.
I can't decide which one I want. So in my defense,
Yeah.
it's a choice overload. But tell
Mhm.
me, what was the time delay between you being 21 with a ridiculous amount of truffles and overzealous curiosity and getting Microdose Pro started? What was that gap like?
Wow. Good question. I think so. We started Microdose Pro 3 years ago. That was 10 years ago. So there was a gap of 7 years. I was still studying. I finished studying I graduated when I was 25 or 26.
In
I think during that time I was exploring a lot. So for me, so my family is very, very open and progressive in a lot of things, all of the things almost, except for drugs. So I come from a family where both my parents said, "Hey, Kai, you can do everything you want in your life,
Except
like everything. Just promise us one thing: don't do drugs."
okay, great. I'll do drugs then.
And yet here we are. No, so I was actually able to delay taking drugs until my 21st, and that was quite long for me actually, because my friends and people around me already started experimenting with MDMA, ecstasy, and these things when they were like 16, 17, 18. And I was able to fight it off. I was like, no, I don't need it. I don't see any benefits. Why would I do it? I mean, I already feel good. And then I think around 20 or 21, Niels, one of my also best friends from way back, he basically said, Kai, I know you very well, and I know your arguments, but I still think you should do it because I think you would actually love it from a curiosity perspective, and what it does to your body and mind, and how you experience something completely new. And that really made me think, okay, so if literally one of my best friends is like, even though he knows and respects my position on not taking drugs, still pushes me to in a good way then to try it, I decided to try it. And I think the first drug that I took was MDMA, and there was also like so much love and warmth and crazy experience. But then I think the second like new drug I tried was psilocybin, and that was next level. So during that gap from 21 to starting Microdose Pro, I occasionally used psychedelics with friends in high dose. And I think after 5 years, I also started with microdosing. And that was because I just graduated and I started my new company, Blockport, a cryptocurrency exchange that we founded here in Amsterdam with two others. And there was like this hype coming up within the tech startup scene of taking LSD and psilocybin in microdoses to improve your productivity, your focus. So very performance driven. And of course, I was like, oh, wow, exactly like you said in the podcast that you recorded with Niels, that there were actually a lot of people that have experiences with high doses, and then they find out, hey, I can actually take this as a low dose as well to improve my life. So that was actually my response as well. Like, can I take this on a daily basis as well? So that's of course. So for me, that was like almost a no-brainer. Like, yeah, I have to try this. And we started doing it during work. And because I was doing it during work, some of my team members also started asking me, like, "Hey guys, you guys are microdosing, right? Where do you get it from? Where do you buy it? How much do you take?" All these basic questions. And that was actually a moment for me when I thought, "Ooh, okay, so there's actually quite some people who I would never thought of that they would take any drugs or mind-altering substances, and they're actually interested to take a microdose. So there is maybe something here with microdosing that allows people to start experimenting with psychedelics in a very, very low barrier way." So that was actually already the start. So 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I started thinking about maybe doing something with microdosing. And then my company eventually we sold the company to a bigger company here in Holland called Bucks. And during that period, I already knew, okay, maybe I want to do something completely different other than crypto and tech in the coming years. And Corona hit. And actually, at the same time, I was also, again, living with Niels in Amsterdam in the same house. So we're both on the couch together during Corona in lockdown. And we're basically telling each other, like asking each other, okay, how can we be as productive as possible in these upcoming 2 weeks? Because the whole world is in lockdown, and we basically have nothing to do right now than just wait and see how things are going. Maybe we could actually set up a new company or do something new. And I think within a couple of hours or a day, Niels and me were already we already agreed that microdosing would be like a very interesting concept to explore. And at the same time, Gino, who worked for my other crypto company very early on, was interested to set up a supplement business with Gino and Niels. So we actually had a really good synergy working together, the three of us at the crypto company at Blockport before. And then later on, we found out that we also had similar interest into psychedelics, longevity, and supplements. And that's when Neil said, yeah, we should actually include Gino as well in this whole idea, because he's very pro psychedelics and he's interested to set up a supplements company with me. I think we could do like something similar or combine our efforts. And that's when we started with Microdose Pro. We bought products from our competitors, basically. We repackaged them. And we started selling them online. And that's how Microdose Pro got started. And after a couple of months, we were already doing quite good. And we got a lot of questions from customers regarding regarding like they had a lot of very complicated questions regarding intake of microdoses in combination with medication, with their potential depression, with like heavy psychological uh, potential diseases, and we were not at all in a position to guide these people. So that's when we talked to each other and we said, okay, we really need to get someone on board, or maybe multiple people that have the credentials to help these people. And that's when we reached out to Jai, and later on, I think Asha, you also joined us. So yeah, that's how we started.
Nice, nice. And you know, I've heard this from other founders, but I haven't had a chance to ask you about it. What have been the surprises? What have you learned, not only about, but mostly about the market? You know, because I can say that Nils mentioned that Microdose Pro was started for focus and productivity and creativity. And as the reviews come in and the feedbacks comes in, and all these testimonials and stories, we're learning that, you know, there's a lot more going on than just productivity. So have you come across any surprises? You know, because it's been 3.5 years now already, so coming up on year 4.
Yeah. So your question basically is, do I have any personal experiences other than improving my
Yeah, or
productivity?
what has surprised you about the power of microdosing that you didn't expect when you
Mm-hmm.
started?
Um,
I like to call it the unintended but positive consequences.
yeah, I know, because I know you asked a similar question to Niels, and I know that for Niels this is very like a very how do you call it, like very specific switch in what he thought initially with microdosing and what he now thinks. But for me, there was not like a massive difference. I what So one of the insights that really struck me is that it has such a big impact on your mood,
Mm,
and in such a lovely and warm way, and such a natural way as well. Because when I explain to people what it did to my mood, then most of the replies that I get from people is, but uh, don't you get the feeling that you always need it? Like,
mm,
or don't you get dependent on it because you
mm.
feel so good, like taking drugs that makes you addicted? Most people go into that direction. And I understand that question, but at the same time, I'm basically saying no, but because microdosing is quite challenging in a way. It's very subtle, but it is also challenging, and it's not something that you constantly want to do because it makes you just more aware of everything you see and what you do and who you are as a person. So in that sense, you're constantly slightly confronted with yourself, which is good because that's how you can grow. But at the same time, it's also therefore very challenging to constantly do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's, I think, so mood was a very big thing for me. And later on, we now also see, because we have a lot of data from customers as well, is that I think most of the customers that we have also do it because of mood, and that makes a lot of sense because the effects on mood for me personally also are very significant. I don't know how it is for you. What kind of reasons you have for doing microdosing?
Well, what I've learned being with you guys for just about 3 years now is I've learned 3 things that surprised me. So it started with how it lowers aggression in people. You know, we had this one lady saying that, oh, her and her husband started microdosing for whatever reason. They were curious. And she has noticed in him, and often the anecdotal reports on men come from the wives because men have no idea what's going on. She's like,
Yeah.
you know, he's not drinking so much. And not only is he not drinking so much, but he's also less aggressive, you know. And then I started looking it up, and it goes beyond the scope.
But is it because he's drinking less, or do you also think that he's less? Because I have something different. But
But this is
continue
the
with the.
thing. But this is one of my 3 points is we always talk about neuroplasticity, but we don't necessarily understand what that means in real life. So neuroplasticity is really the optimizing of synapses That sounds all, we're all like used to this language, but what does that mean? It means that it's so much easier to do the things that you know are good for you intuitively, and it's so much easier to stop doing the things that sabotage you, right? So it's
Yeah,
easier to not smoke. It's easier to have 2 drinks instead of 9. It's easier to go for that
yeah,
run. It's easier to be outside. It's easier to listen to your child and play on the floor with them.
yeah,
There's a really
yeah,
interesting
exactly.
pull and pull, push and pull. So the fact that somebody that's drinking less, that's the neuroplasticity. And sure, he doesn't have to deal with
Hmm.
hangovers, so then he's not irritable. He doesn't have as much inflammation. It's a whole cascade of things.
Yeah, yeah. For me, that is indeed very, very interesting because I then, as a my instant question then is like, how do we know what is good for us? Because apparently, when you microdose, a lot of people report that they start doing the good things
Right.
over the bad things.
Right.
So deep down, everyone knows what is good and what is bad for them, apparently, because they start doing the good things.
But I think it's that
That's very interesting
magnifying
to me.
because, like you said, when you microdose, you're so much more aware of everything. And that magnification of, I'm just going to go for a walk around the block for 10 minutes feels so nice. And oh, I'm just gonna, I know I said I was gonna quit smoking, but I'm just gonna have a cigarette now. Feels so terrible.
Hmm.
And you're like, ugh, like why did I just have this cigarette? So it's that magnification on both sides that you start to like move away from one and go towards the other rather than being in this like terrible middle spot.
Yeah, but it is, for example, I had the same with drinking alcohol and also drinking coffee. I have to say that I also started drinking coffee again, but not as much as I did. Just 1 cup because I work out every day, and having 1 cup of like coffee before you work out is just the
It
best thing
is.
ever. Uh, but combining it with microdosing is like, oh no, it doesn't work. It makes me jittery and feel awful. Yeah,
Have you run out
yeah, but I
of your own supply?
yeah, of course, I've tried Pure Focus, but sorry guys, there's nothing like a double fucking espresso before you go to go to the gym. uh, so yeah, maybe let's cut out this part.
Not at all. Not staying.
um, no, of course not. No, but to come back to what we were talking about. Oh yeah, the balancing out effect of microdosing. Um, it's interesting to me. For example, I never smoked, but when I had a few beers, then I think after my fourth or fifth beer, I love to get like a cigarette
Mm,
and get that nicotine high
mm,
and just have a few hits. After microdosing, or while I was doing microdosing, I also tried that a couple of times,
mm.
and then all of a sudden the cigarette just started smelling really, really bad,
Right?
and I was like, why am I doing this? It's like horrible. And I took another hit. I was like, oh, like what the fuck? Why am I doing this? And I threw it away.
Right?
And after that, I literally never did it again. And now when I have like one hit, also for example on Boom, sometimes you find someone who is smoking and then you take like one hit, and I was like, again, like
Right?
awful taste. So it all changes then on a physiological perspective, your ability to taste something and then experience it in a bad way. So it's not only the mental aspect, but also maybe on a physiological level.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because there's like 400 chemicals in cigarettes or something, and it's like psilocybin comes as like this superhero with a cape going, protecting what was it? Like the Matrix, dodging all the bullets. Like you can have 400 chemicals, but I
Mhm.
will block any feel good from this cigarette.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very interesting.
So
Very
where do
interesting.
you mentioned team building. I wanted to kind of just brush on Boom because I haven't
Yes,
seen it
boom.
since,
Yeah, of course.
and it's been so good. It's kind of like Here in Africa, we have Africa Burn, and, they have like after burn events, for when you get like, you're missing the playa. In this case, we went to Boom in Portugal last month, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm having a bit of withdrawal. It was really
Really?
excellent.
Yeah, you want to go back?
It was really excellent, and I've done a few festivals, and I haven't necessarily enjoyed them as much, but this one was hit all the marks. So I don't know what your
Yeah.
decompression was like, but mine was excellent.
Yeah, for me as well. I mean, this is I also posted it on my Instagram, but this was literally the best week ever of my life. So and it hit indeed all the marks. I don't have that strong withdrawal. I do feel, of course, like I'm already looking forward to the next boom, which
Sure.
is in 2 years. It's
Right?
insane, but I'm already looking forward to it. But at the same time, it is so intense. It's so intense that I I don't want to. I would not like to go back right now. It's just too early. So I completely understand the organizers for only organizing Boone once every 2 years, because it builds up such a lovely suspense and expectation.
Yeah,
But yeah, so Boom. I mean, we can. I think we can talk about this for hours and hours. But yeah, so my first impression or first feedback is best week ever.
yeah, and I want to give props again to the organizers, and the reason why I bring this up, because it's a little bit kind of like microdosing in the sense that the organizers really understand the value of pacing yourself and acclimatizing and integrating and like chill for a minute. We're gonna get,
Yeah,
and that was the MC of the events set the stage when the main stage opened on the first day of the festival, saying we're gonna be here for 7 days. Everybody pace yourselves, and the fact that they close the stages every once in a while, it really forces everyone to kind of like sync up.
yeah.
And now this build up for 2 years from now, this is part of the magic of, you don't need to be a glutton. You can
Mm.
just, there's such magic in minimal effective dose, meds, as I like to call them, which is my favorite thing. Just really understanding what the maximum or minimal effective dose is in all aspects of life is really something worth considering.
Yeah, yeah. I have a couple of questions for
Please.
you because obviously you wrote a lovely blog post on this. I recommend everyone to read it. So that was really good. Um, and indeed, the pacing or the schedules that the organizers set for the festival are just almost perfect in my perception. Because, for example, the main stage, which is an extremely intense place to be for a couple of hours, they just stopped it a couple of times exactly at the moment when I thought, oh, now it would be actually quite nice if everything would just quiet down and silence. And that is so nice. And everyone is walking away from the stages. There's no music anywhere. Maybe some lost soul playing on a guitar and near the water, which is also good. But then you go to the plaza area where you have all the insanely good food. You have food with the people you're with, but also with the people you just met on the main stage, and you're talking about like how insane it was and all the things you saw and felt. And then you walk back to the stages area, and then you go to that little garden stage where they play the chill music. You lay down. The whole stage is covered with, what is it called, like a rug, so you can lay down, actually very comfortable. And then the garden stage starts at 9 again, so they build it up very slowly, and then after that they open up the main stage again. So the pacing indeed is insane. I've never seen that anywhere in any music festival or event like that.
Right, because they
It's
just
very well done.
push, and then you freak out, and then you have all these different reactions that you have to manage. But just like shake it off on main stage for a few hours, go for a bit of a swim, have something to eat, pull yourself toward yourself and start again tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, we never did a night session though.
Oh, I
That is
did.
something else.
Oh, I
I
did.
did that last year. Oh, you did. Oh, you
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. After that, the night that main stage closed, because the main stage
Yeah.
closed at 9 p.m., I kept going. You guys all tapped out. Even Jai and everybody else
Really?
tapped out. It was
Wow.
myself, Gino, and Cynthia till 5 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I salute you. I take off my my tinfoil hat.
Yes. Now you know why some people call me
Um,
bamboo. I'm a slow grower, but once I
wow.
get
Okay.
going,
Yeah, I was actually like Asha. I was surprised in a very good way that you were also able to rave with us for 6 hours on the main stage
I
with the
was
most
committed.
intense psytrance.
I did not leave that stage.
Yeah.
I did not leave. I was in
No,
it for the win.
that was like I was dancing insane, and so, at some point I was like, oh, I need to like rest a bit. I looked around, and you were just behind me, like. I was like, wow, okay, we got some true warriors here in the team.
Listen, 12 years in the film industry. 12 years I've earned my
Oh
black
yeah,
belt in partying. That's why I tell you
your
people I'm
stripes,
tired. I'm tired. I
the very deep tiredness.
have fatigued inside.
But yeah, I wanted to ask you just to go back to like the more serious psychedelics conversation. Um, what I find interesting is that when you ask the experts on psychedelics, um, preparing for a trip, set and setting, uh, pacing yourself, not taking too much, not taking too high of a dose. Um, all these things, in my perception, go out of the window if you no, well, not go out of the window, but let's say you tend to forget some of these
Golden
aspects
rules.
when you go to boom and you're on the main stage.
Mhm.
And I'm just surprised by how well, even though it's like against all the advice of the experts, how well everyone is still performing under a high dose of psychedelics on such an intense in such an intense place as the main stage. So how do you see that? Is that something you're like surprised by, or is it like, yeah, this is just normal?
I think it's a combination of two things. I think it's a combination of, festivals have been going for a long time, and a decent portion. Not only has Boom been going since 97, and there's like, it's not like 18-year-olds, so it can be a little bit older. And we've been taught, a lot of people have been taught how to party properly, which is a big, important metric for me. You were taught how to use truffles properly. I think, passing the baton is a really important thing. So the people that are into psytrance, that have been to Boom several times, they know the lay of the land and they know their own chemistry, like I mentioned in the article, and they kind of have a sense of what to do. But then, of course, the other aspect is, I heard someone describe festivals as summer camp for adults. There's not very much that's expected of you. It's intense, but you can really be as you are at a festival. You don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to do anything. Your phone's not bloody working. Like, if you ran out of, something you want to smoke or whatever, you can ask the guy next to you, the lost soul singing by the water, he'll give you some. Like, there's no stress, there's no demands, there's no pressure, so you can really just dance if you want to, lie down if you want to, whatever. And that doesn't highlight um, the places where you can unravel if you don't follow a golden rule. So I think it's those two
Yeah,
components.
yeah. Yeah, I think it also has to do. I also get that feeling. I agree. Get the feeling that on Boom, it's a collection of the most experienced psychonauts in the world. I get that feeling. And for example, I mean, I used to go to a lot of music festivals here in Amsterdam. You have insane amounts of music festivals here in Amsterdam, and people are taking drugs, obviously, on these festivals. But if I tell people that I am on, for example, LSD on a festival, then most of these people who are experienced drug takers are like, "What are you taking LSD here? How you're able to deal with all the impression, all the feelings, emotions, all everything that you go through? It's like a trip." And of course, you do feel it, but I think it's more numbed down when you're in an environment where you get so many signals. But for me, it's actually it feels like a very good challenge. Like I love the challenge of being on psychedelics in a challenging environment. But so I have the feeling that everyone almost, especially the ones on the main stage at Boom, also have that like uh, yearning for challenge, because you must almost have that yearning for challenge in order to be able to process all of that. Or am I wrong in that regard?
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, but I've heard you and other people speak about the energy at a festival. And I think it takes you a while to really accept that some festivals have different energies. And when you do find a good one like Boom, it takes you a few days to be like, oh, okay, I really am safe here. Like, and safe in a way that I can really just relax and like nothing, no one's going to be unnecessary and nobody's going to be ridiculous. And I can just really, really enjoy the moment. And that's not the case for every environment. So I think that once you get that point, you're like, okay, bring it on. But it's just getting to that
Hmm.
point, because you can be in some spaces or in some clubs or in some musical environments and you're like, no thanks, like I don't even want to have a beer.
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, true. The Boom experience does provide you with that warm bath to just lay in and relax
Yes.
and let go of everything.
Yes, and it's probably, and for you guys, it was probably all those olives and charcuterie boards and white wine at the wine bar that put you guys very at ease and felt very safe inside.
I was actually not liking that at all that much. I think Gino was buying a lot of these boards
I was like,
constantly,
this is
but
amazing. Wine
yeah,
and olives at a music festival. I was so impressed. So,
yeah,
so tell me, where do
lovely.
you see the future of Microdose Pro and Human Pro going? Because we mustn't forget about Human Pro, bless. It's our sister company and we love her.
Bless her. Wow. Okay, that's a good question. Where do we go for the future? Um, well, partially also again the reason why I started, or together with Gino Niels started Microdose Pro, is because I think that the access to safe and affordable psychedelics is something that should be almost a human basic right.
Mm.
Um, and I'm not saying that psychedelics is for everyone and that everyone should try microdosing and that it will work for everyone. But at least there should be the option to try it. And at this point, I think, especially in the Western world, basically around the whole world, it's almost impossible to do this in a safe and affordable way. I mean, of course, you can buy from the black market dealers and try it yourself, but you never know what kind of substance it is. And because it's still a taboo, because there's still this stigma around it, I think it's very makes it very hard to get the right guidance and to find the right information. And I think that's what we're doing with basically what we're doing with Microdose Pro is providing that safe and affordable platform for people to try psychedelics in a low dose, of course, to see what it does with you and how you can use it and apply it in your own life. So I think that is just that is the basic. And of course, it's also interesting to talk about like, okay, what like very practically, what should we build? What should we go for? Um, we would love to do way more research into how we can optimize our products, how we could potentially offer other products. I mean, this is all dependent on, of course, legalization and that movement, and that is a really that's a macroeconomic trend almost that is slowly starting to move right now, but we're also highly dependent on it. So given those within those boundaries, I would love to do more and more research into um, the effects of microdosing, and there's just so many potential applications for it as well. So we really need to do more and more research into that area to see how we can optimize our product and services, basically. One of the things that I work on, which I'm pretty excited about, is our app, the Sweet Spot app that people can use to start with microdosing. You can set an intention, you can schedule your protocol, you can even create your own protocol if you don't want to follow the basic Fadiman or Paul Stamets schedules. And I think the app can be a Kickstarter to a broader health optimization platform for the future. So now, of course, the application is microdosing, but I would also love to help people with other things than microdosing, because I think microdosing is not something that people should do always.
Mm.
But we're onboarding a lot of people now. I think we have more than 1,000 people in our app without even actually like promoting it heavily. But all these people, they go through a certain journey. They try microdosing. For some, it works. For some, it doesn't. But I would like to also expand on that and find out why it didn't work or what other things they would like to see in the app, for example, to improve their mental health, to improve their well-being, because that eventually is the goal of Microdose Pro, to build products and services that improve people's well-being and mental health.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting because it's I don't want to use the word gold rush, but I just can't think of another term right now. But it is a psychological gold rush. The last 15 years or so, neuroscience has come up in leaps and bounds in the last 15 years. Psychology has come up leaps and bounds. Obviously, psychedelics are being less vilified and a little bit more accessible, and all of these components coming together is just there's so much that we don't know, and there's so much that we can still learn from each other. And it's also yes, we have access to more therapy, and yes, there's a lot of language around trauma and depression and mood disorders and whatever that is. But then, how accessible is treatment? How affordable is treatment? How consistent is treatment? And this is the wonderful thing about psilocybin, is that it really is a self-operating DIY toolkit if you know what you're doing. You don't need to rely on anyone. If you have the right dosage, it's like Fatty Man said recently in an Aubrey Marcus interview, it's virtually risk-free when you're, taking on a microdose. And it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen all year round. One cycle is 6 to 8 weeks. You need maybe 2 cycles in a year. And then the rest of the time you're
Mm-hmm.
integrating and, feeling into yourself. So it's very counterintuitive. It's very accessible. It's completely self-run, and it's affordable. Because I see videos of veterans completely falling apart because they can't get help that they need. You see women with
Mm-hmm.
postpartum issues that are completely falling apart. You see teenagers that, are having struggles or whatever. And of course, I'm not advocating microdosing for teenagers, but I'm just saying we have a lot of supply for these issues, but it's still not meeting demand. And there's still a lot of people that need a solution that is sustainable for them on a long term. That's
Yeah, yeah.
and a 15-minute overpriced consultation with a psychiatrist, with medications that are gonna, take 5 years of your life that you're not really gonna know where that 5 years went,
Mm-hmm.
and you haven't necessarily grown as a person. You just kind of got through it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I hope that that Microdose Pro, in that sense, can really, because on the one hand, of course, we're a company and we're trying to grow. We're focused on performance, but at the same time, we wanted to use that momentum, that growth, and also that successful or that monetary success that we generate, to pour that into finding out how it works, and what kind of applications there might be other than the application that we already know, because I think there's so much to explore still, and because it is illegal in most countries, it's very hard to do any kind of research into this area, especially with microdosing, because microdosing is very hard to do research on in a clinical setting, because microdosing is meant to be used in a daily setting, in a natural setting, not in a laboratory. So I think we really have a potential edge here with Microdose Pro to build an app, to build a platform where we are one of the first potentially to collaborate together with scientific institutions such as in universities, and to do the first steps within the scientific method to provide data and insights to these institutions, so that they can actually build on top of that. I think that is something very valuable that we can do with Microdose Pro.
Absolutely, absolutely. And citizen scientists got us through the 5-year ban on psilocybin, and citizen scientists will continue to add value to the industry. Yes, God bless.
Exactly.
God bless them. Is there anything that you're currently reading?
Ooh, it's funny that you that you ask, because in front of me is this book, and it's
I
actually
told you I'm psychic. That's what the
I
feather
was,
earring is for. It's an antenna. I know these things.
oh yeah, you already felt it. Yeah, this is actually quite a good book. It is a book that is part of a box
Ooh.
of Porsche,
Oh,
and one of the founders, Kun, is also a designer, and he's going to work with us in the future.
very cool.
But he gave me this book, and it is he has made a like high end premium wooden box that contains all the instruments and attributes that you need in order to have the best DMT experience.
Ooh.
So he wrote this little book where he goes into the details of how to use psychedelics in a very safe and reliable way. And so that's what I was reading. And other than that, I am reading a book on the first principles
Ooh, very
of the founding fathers of the US. Very conservative.
wow. Left brain,
Yeah,
right brain, huh? Okay.
yeah,
Very small tangent.
yeah.
What
So
did you
that's what
study
I'm reading
in
now.
university? I'm curious.
Sorry?
What did you study in university? I'm curious.
I studied technology management, which is basically a business course, and I specialized myself in artificial intelligence in the last few years. Not necessarily from a technical perspective, but I was very interested in the technical perspective as well. I'm not a programmer or an engineer, but it was more from an ethical perspective, and that is, of course, very interesting still now. That was interesting 6 years ago, and it was interesting 50 years ago, but now it's becoming more and more applicable to real life, because we're dealing with more and more AI, of course. So has always been a philosophical point of interest for me, artificial intelligence.
It is. It is. I mean, I'm sure you see my my comments in Slack every time I have an argument with ChatGPT, but we'll have that conversation another time. And I'm like, I'm paying for the 4.0 version. Why am I still having an argument with this thing? This thing is replying, it was not my intention. I'm like, what do you mean your intention? What do you mean?
But is it able to convince you,
No,
or
because it backtracks.
do you
It just
still have the
backtracks and
feeling?
apologizes,
Okay.
and then it like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you have these unlimited versions of AI as well online. They don't have these what do you call it, guardrails in place. Have you ever tried talking to those?
No.
Because that's really interesting. Then you can actually see what an AI does without. having the guardrails on. That
Ooh,
is
I want
very
those
scary.
days. Okay, I'll be chatting to you on
Yeah.
the other side of this. So before we wrap up, I would love to know because back again to this team building. The reason I bring it up is because you guys are obviously based in Amsterdam and I'm based in Cape Town, and a lot of the team members we just met for the first time. And so I'm learning so much about each of you, and I'm just curious, what is something about you that we wouldn't necessarily know looking at you?
Well, you know that I love psytrance now, but that is usually something that not a lot of people know and expect also from me. But yeah, that is something I like from the top of my head. But something you don't know that I. Mm,
So, for context, obviously we had met before. We met in Cape Town a bunch of times,
mm,
and I remember like the first time I met you, you had this like beautiful crisp white shirt and this beautiful vintage watch, and I'm like, okay, okay.
mm.
So, and then we have the beautiful team building, and I was like, oh, okay. There's a facet I didn't know was dormant
Yeah.
behind the scenes. So I'm giving you a lot of credit for being a complex individual. I'm sure there's more under there somewhere.
But what do you mean with the difference? But did you see a difference between Boom and when you met me at first, or that it was similar?
A complete difference. Complete difference because,
Okay.
like from the Swiss businessman with the shirt and the watch to if you had a mantra at Boom, it's meeting at main stage. We're meeting at main stage. Like 20 times a day, and it was like not only did you go to main stage, you like were like everybody knew you were there.
I was the
Maxed
main
out,
stage.
you maxed out main stage, so it's just like these two beautiful aspects of you.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, so that was something you did not expect
No,
me to be?
no.
Okay. Yeah, that's yeah, I mean when the music is right, so for example, so the thing is with psytrance is that I've been listening to psytrance for 5 or 6 years. I know that it's to many people it sounds like crap because it's just so intense, it's so fast. But for me, somehow it just works. It just brings my brain to a level where I'm almost like becoming one with the sound or something. It's just like it's very synergetic. And there are not a lot of psytrance festivals in the world to start with, and then there are not a lot of good psytrance festival, not at all. So Boom is actually the best psytrance festival with like the best sound system and the best DJs, and that for me was just like heaven. So that's why I was obsessed by obsessed by the main stage at Boom.
I will still remember, I do listen to a few tracks from the closing set still, I will admit. But as you read in my article, I still don't think that psytrance is music, but it's definitely an experience. So I will give you that. It is
Yeah,
definitely a felt experience. And maybe that's why people don't understand it. They're expecting the wrong thing.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that just for example with techno, you also it's very hard for people to understand what techno really is about until you go to a techno party and you take some ecstasy. I mean, that's just a different experience. And that is the same, I think, for psytrance and psychedelics. Until then, you can not really say if, like what you think about it because it's just so different than what you expect.
Another version of letting go. It's the art of letting go to a different rhythm.
Exactly.
Exactly. Just like
Yes.
microdosing. So I know you're very busy and you have another meeting coming up now. Thank you so much for your time.
Hmm.
And I've had so much fun learning more about you. And next, we'll have another,
Thank you very much.
we'll have Gino on next. But this has been really great. I really appreciate your time. I'll
Nice.
see you on the flip side.
Thank you very much, Asha. I love it that you're doing this and you're doing it in a very lovely and warming way. So highly appreciate it, and love working with you, and really think it's an insane journey since we started. And thank you for being part of it.
Thank you for allowing me to be part of it. You guys are really my unicorn people, and what that means is I heard people like you existed, but you guys made it true. So that's always how I will describe you,
Wow.
my unicorn people. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one. Chat soon.
Appreciate it. Ciao, ciao. Bye bye.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation just as much as I did. Be sure to like and subscribe, check out our other videos, and go to both Microdose Pro and Human Pro for more information. As always, shine bright, do good, and flow strong.